Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To start tonight's concert, would you please rise for the singing of our national anthem with musician first class, Christine Sia.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Celebrating 50 years as the Navy's premier jazz ensemble, the United States Navy Band Commodores.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are the United States Navy Band Commodores, celebrating 50 years now as the Navy's premier jazz ensemble. I'm Senior Chief Musician Bill Mulligan. We are delighted to be back here at the Millennium stage and so glad that you decided to join us today. How about a big hand for everybody here at the Kennedy Center and especially the Millennium stage? You can enjoy the arts here 365 days a year. It's really a national treasure. We love being here. How about a big hand for all those folks who make that possible? We got the music started with one from the great Sammy Nestico that was entitled Dimensions in Blue. And I'd like to introduce our musical director right now at this point. She programs all of our shows. We play a different program each and every time we leave the historic Washington Navy Yard to go out and perform. So I promise if you keep coming back to hear the Commodores, you'll always hear us play something you haven't heard before. From Hemet, California, please say hello to Chief Musician Jennifer Krupa. In celebrating 50 years as the Navy's premier jazz ensemble, Chief Krupa has been scouring the archives that are the Navy Band's music library and finding lots of great music that perhaps was played by the band way back at the beginning when the band was formed in 1969. And we're featuring a few of those early charts tonight in tonight's show. This one, it comes from the great Thad Jones. Here's Little Pumpkin. Once again, that's Thad Jones, Little Pumpkin. We featured our lead alto saxophonist, this time on soprano saxophone from Pensacola, Florida, Senior Chief Musician Steve Williams. Now, we are right here in the birthplace and childhood home of the great Duke Ellington, Washington, D.C. He was born and raised here, and in fact, when he and his band first moved up to New York City, they were known as the New Washingtonians. So we'd be remiss if we didn't do a little bit of Duke Ellington's music. We'd like to do one right now entitled Main Stem. Main stem. Might be easier to recognize those who did not solo. Let's see if I can remember everybody. From Baltimore, Maryland, on the tenor saxophone, we have Master Chief Musician Philip Berlin. From McLean, Virginia, on the baritone saxophone, that is Senior Chief Musician Rob Holmes. Once again, our musical director, chief musician Jennifer Krupa. Still the newest member of the Commodores from Austin, Texas. This is musician first class David Caprell. From the beautiful city of Belleville, Illinois, chief musician Tim Stanley on the trumpet. And from Dundalk, Maryland, musician first class Jonathan Barnes. Our fantastic vocalist, musician first class Christine Sia got us started with that fantastic rendition of the national anthem. At this time, would you please welcome back to the stage musician first class Christine Sia.
Seeing someone new. I don't believe she knows you like I do. Your temperamental, moody side, the one you always try to hide from me. And I know when you've got something on your mind, you've been trying to tell me for the longest time. But before you break my heart in two, there's something I've been trying to say to you. But the words get in the way. There's so much I want to say. It's been locked deep inside, and if you look in my eyes, we might fall in love again. We won't even start to cry, and before we say goodbye, I tried to say I love you, but the words get in the way. There's so much I want to say. It's been locked deep inside, and if you look in my eyes, we might fall in love again. We won't even start to cry, and before we say goodbye, I tried to say I love you, but the words get in the way. Has always been an open door. My heart has always been an open door. My heart has always been wide open. But I don't seem to know you anymore. she knows you. No, I don't think she knows you. She don't know you. She don't know you. She don't know you. I don't think she knows you like I do. She don't know you. She don't know you. She don't know you. I don't think she knows you like I do. I tried to say I love you. I tried to tell you, but the words get in the way. My heart is always open. I tried to say I love you. Thank you so much. That was Words Get in the Way, and it was originally sung by Gloria Estefan, and that featured on the flute our senior chief, Bill Mulligan, and on the guitar, musician first class, Sean Purcell. And how about a hand for the arranger? Over in the back, it's musician first class, Thomas Eby. And now I'd like to leave you with a world premiere. It's been performed by the likes of Betty Hutton back in the 1950s and by Bjork as modern as 2000s. So here is It's Oh So Quiet. It's oh so quiet. Shh, shh. It's oh so still. Shh, shh. You're all alone. Shh, shh. And so peaceful until you fall in love. Sing boom, the sky up above. Sing boom is caving in. Woo! You've never been so nuts about a guy. You wanna laugh, you wanna cry. You cross your heart and hope to die till it's over. And then shh, shh. It's nice and quiet. Shh, shh. But soon again, shh, shh, starts another big riot. You blow a fuse, zing boom, the devil cuts loose, zing boom. So what's the use? Woo! Of falling in love. Shh. It's oh so quiet. It's oh so still. You're all alone and so peaceful until you ring that bell, bing bam. You shout and you yell, ah, you broke the spell. Gee, this is swell, you almost have a fit. This guy is gorge and I got hit. There's no mistake, this is it! Till it's over and then it's nice and quiet. Shh, shh. And soon again, shh, shh, starts another big riot.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Isn't she great? Originating from Long Island, New York, that's musician first class, Christine Sia. And we mentioned that we are celebrating 50 years as the Navy's premier jazz ensemble, but actually, if you go, you can take the history of jazz in your United States Navy much further back than that. And we are very fortunate. We have a gentleman up here, in addition to being a very swinging big band drummer, he is also quite the historian. In fact, at the Navy Band, he serves as the Navy Band's archivist. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to him briefly so he can tell you a little bit about the history of jazz in the United States Navy. Please say hello to Greensboro, North Carolina's own musician first class, Kevin Mcdonald.
The senior chief mentioned that we are very proudly celebrating our 50th year as the Navy's premier jazz ensemble. Now, those 50 years is the longest tenure of any full-time jazz ensemble within the rich and storied history of jazz in America's Navy that goes all the way back, in fact, to 1917, when John Philip Sousa himself started a group he called the Great Lakes Navy Yard Jazz Band at our training facility just north of Chicago. The very next year, in 1918, our home base followed suit and started a group it called the Washington Navy Yard Jazz Band, who in 1921 became the first group ever, civilian or military, to perform jazz at the White House. It was the Navy, beat Army. In World War II, a number of high-profile jazz musicians served in America's Navy, including the great clarinetist and bandleader Artie Shaw. We played a little bit of the Artie Shaw Library right at the top of the show. Fittingly for DC, that was Artie Shaw's Traffic Jam. The trumpeter Clark Terry actually also served at Navy Band Great Lakes during World War II. And the jazz giant John Coltrane actually also got his musical start with a Navy Band station in Hawaii called the Melody Masters. The Commodores were formed in 1969, and one of the first engagements Commodores ever staffed was at the White House in April of 1969, when President Richard Nixon awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to the one and only Duke Ellington. So we were very proud to carry that legacy into the 21st century. In conjunction with our 50th anniversary, we have a number of exciting engagements coming up, including a marquee concert in September. So if you'd like more information, please visit our website at navyband.navy.mil. If you can't remember that, just go to Google and type in Navy Band. We're the very first thing that pops up. We'd like to continue now with a beautiful, beautiful ballad that was made famous by Frank Sinatra. This particular arrangement is from a very close friend of the band by the name of Lee Pilzer. She has dedicated this to the late, great Calvin Jones, a wonderful trombone professor at the University of the District of Columbia. And on this, we'd like to feature our lead trombonist. In the wee small hours of the morning, would you please welcome to the front of the stage from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, please say hello to musician first class, Benjamin Ford.
in the wee small hours of the morning. Once again, musician first class Benjamin Ford. Isn't that pretty? Arranger and composer. Arranger in this case, the great Lee Pilzer. Right now, we're going to return to some of the music that Chief Krupa found up in the Navy Band's music library from the early days of the Commodores. This is a great one. This comes from great pianist Billy Taylor, arranged by Oliver Nelson. We're going to feature our rhythm section on this. Here's Soul Sister. Soul Sister. Once again, Billy Taylor and Oliver Nelson. We featured on the piano originally all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina, musician first class Dan La Maestra. And on the double bass from Boston, Massachusetts, senior chief musician Peter Ravel. Only a few members of the ensemble you've not yet met. Before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment and introduce them to you, starting with our lead trumpet from Glendale, Arizona. That's musician first class Thomas Eby. Right next to him from Lafayette Parish, Louisiana, musician first class Tyler Meir. On the bass trombone from Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, where every day's a holiday, that is Master Chief musician Matt Neff. You are about to hear from Miami, Florida's own senior chief musician Luis Hernandez. And I saved this gentleman for last so you can help us thank him with an extra special round of applause. Our sound professional tonight is on loan from the Navy Band Concert Band, the world's finest. And anytime he's with us, he always gets the sound just right. We're always so pleased to have him. And best of all, he's from the Buckeye State. From Lima, Ohio, that's musician first class Stephen Van Dyne back there. Thank you, Stephen. Now again from the music from the early days of the Commodores. Here's one from the great band leader and pianist Toshiko Akiyoshi. This is a lot of fun. We hope you enjoy the March of the Tadpoles.
Thank you.
Once again, Toshiko Akiyoshi's The March of the Tadpoles. Senior Chief Luis Hernandez on the tenor saxophone. Chief Musician Tim Stanley on the trumpet. Musician First Class David Caprell on the slide trombone. And while we're at it, how about a bow for the entire trombone section? You've been a great audience. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Right now, by show of hands, do we have any veterans in the audience? Thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'd like to close out tonight's show the way we close all of our shows throughout the year by paying tribute to you, our veterans. We're going to play the service songs, the songs associated with each branch of the armed forces. When you hear your song, please stand up and be recognized. If you have a family member who served or is serving in that branch, please stand up as well. We'll all thank you with a round of applause. In closing, here's our Armed Forces Salute.
The United States Coast Guard. The Marine Corps. The United States Air Force. The United States Army. The United States Navy.
Thank you, veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Navy Band Commodores. Thank you very much. You've been great. We look forward to seeing you next time. Good night.
thank you for joining us on Millennium Stage. To our veterans, we thank you for your service and have a wonderful evening.